Hello everyone and welcome to our webinar IATF 16949, What Changes? My name is Tobias Schroeder and I'm a Content Marketing Manager here at SoftExpert. Today's webinar will be presented by Mr. Gus Oliveira, who is an International Product and Marketing Manager at SoftExpert and has over 10 years experience in the financial and business development fields, working in large companies both in the United States and Brazil as a financial analyst, business strategy consultant, and project consultant. Gus has a degree in business administration as well as a degree in economics from the University of Massachusetts. I wish you all a great webinar.
Thank you very much for the introduction, Tobias. So let's start off by talking a little bit about ISO TS 16949. First developed in 1999, ISO TS 16949 has become one of the most widely used international standards for quality management in the automotive industry today. ISO TS 16949 was first developed by the IATF, or the International Automotive Task Force, in conjunction with ISO's Technical Committee for Quality Management. As a result, ISO TS 16949 integrated with ISO 9001 by including specific requirements from the automotive sector. ISO TS 16949 is evolving with the publication of a new global standard by the International Automotive Task Force, or IATF. This latest version was developed with an unprecedented level of industry feedback and engagement by AIAG members representing North America. ISO TS 16949 Technical Specification for Automotive Quality Management System, in conjunction with ISO 9001, defines the quality system requirements for the design, development, manufacturing, installation, and servicing of automotive-related products. ISO TS 16949 certification is a mandatory industry requirement developed by IATF to align automotive quality systems throughout the world. The new standard will be implemented in conjunction with and as a supplement to ISO 9001-2015. Therefore, IATF 16949 will not be a standalone quality management standard. The goal is to accentuate defect prevention, provide continuous enhancements, and decrease waste and disparity in the supply chain. So why change? The global automotive industry faces important challenges, from the rapid growth of the supply base in emerging markets to the need for improved performance, reliability, and cost effectiveness. In response to these challenges, the International Automotive Task Force agreed to discontinue its joint development of ISO TS 16949, the well-known technical specification for automotive sector quality management systems. The IATF released the first edition of the new IATF 16949 in October of 2016. The automotive industry must have tightly controlled industry requirements since they produce very high-risk and high-cost products and services. Given that, the standard is being changed to better align the needs of the industry stakeholders. Some of the new enhancements to the automotive quality standard is to address recent issues in the automotive industry include the following: requirements for safety-related parts and processes, enhanced product traceability requirements to support the latest regulatory changes, requirements for products with embedded software, warranty management processes including addressing NTF, or no trouble found, and use of automotive industry guidance, clarification of sub-tier management and development requirements, addition of corporate responsibility requirements. Being aligned with ISO 9001-2015 structure makes it simpler for companies that wish to or need to implement one or more quality management systems. With the proper implementation and management of IATF, organizations in the automotive industry will be able to receive recognition from regulatory authorities, produce safer and more reliable products, meet or exceed customer requirements, improve processes and documentation systems, comply with requirements for safety-related parts and processes, enhance product traceability requirements to support the latest regulatory change. The new standard will also help you to integrate with other management systems, provide an integrated approach to organizational management, reflect the increasingly complex international environment in which organizations operate in this industry, as well as enhance an organization's ability to satisfy its customers and continuously improve. The new standard will supersede and replace the current ISO TS 16949 from 2009, defining the requirements of quality management systems for organizations in the automotive industry. IATF requires complete conformance to all ISO 9001-2015 requirements and identifies the supplemental automotive management system requirements, which are extensive. Most of the supplemental requirements are carryover from ISO TS 16949-2009. However, there have been significant areas of updates based on the evolving automotive industry direction. Here are the highlights of the changes, which includes these new and updated concepts. Organizational context. Consider the combination of internal and external factors and conditions that can influence an organization's approach to its products, services, investments, and interested parties. Issues. Issues can be internal or external, positive or negative, and include conditions that either affect or are affected by the organization. Interested parties can be a person or organization that can be affected by, or perceive themselves to be affected by a decision or activity. Examples include suppliers, customers, or competitors. Leadership. Requirements to top management who are defined as a person or group of people who directs and controls an organization at the highest level. Risk associated with threats. Refined planning processes replaces preventative action and is defined as the effect of and opportunities uncertainty on an unexpected result. Communication. There are explicit and more detailed requirements for both internal and external communications. Documented information. This replaces documents and records. There are two types: maintained, which are procedures and work instructions, and retained, which are records. Performance evaluation. The measurement of quality performance and the effectiveness of the QMS, covering the methods for monitoring, measurement, analysis, and evaluation as applicable to ensure valid results. Nonconformity and corrective. More detailed evaluation of both nonconformities themselves and corrective action required. Human factors have been added as an element of root cause analysis. Management review. More detailed requirements relating to inputs and outputs of the review. Product safety. Requirement to address the items defined within this new requirement is a documented and dedicated process for the management of product safety related products and manufacturing processes. Embedded software. Detailed requirements for products with embedded software. Organizations must also implement and maintain a system for software quality assurance of these products. Corporate responsibility. Requirements have corporate responsibility policies, including an anti-bribery policy, an employee code of conduct, and an ethics escalation or whistleblowing policy. Supplier management. Additional requirements regarding the organization's supplier selection process have been added. Internal audit frequency requirements have also been modified. Let's talk now about some of the key changes. Risk-based thinking. As it's the case with ISO 9001-2015, risk mitigation is at the core of IATF 16949. In order to maximize the potential accomplishments of planned activities and minimize the chances of failure during the development of new programs, IATF 16949 adds various specific risk-related requirements. With the intention of making business safer and more stable through risk identification and mitigation, these requirements were included as a result of industry best practice. A requirement of IATF 16949 is that all organizations guarantee conformance of all products, processes, and service parts, including all those that are outsourced to third parties, meaning that the organization must have in place a system that will mitigate nonconformance risks throughout the supply chain. In the end, the company is responsible for all conformity and nonconformity. Therefore, it must pass down all pertinent requirements throughout the supply chain all the way to the point of manufacture. To ensure risk-based thinking is pervasive throughout the organization, top management needs to be actively engaged. Their responsibilities now include conducting contingency planning reviews, identifying and supporting process owners, participating in escalation processes related to product safety, ensuring achievement of customer performance targets and quality objectives, implementing corporate responsibility initiatives including an anti-bribery policy, an employee code of conduct, and an ethics escalation policy or whistleblowing policy. Various common industry practices that were found in customer-specific requirements are also incorporated in IATF 16949. The goal of the integration of these common practices as requirement is to ease the demand for broad customer-specific requirements in these areas. It's also crucial to clearly distinguish between customer requirements and customer-specific requirements, or CSRs. These two terms are defined in IATF 16949 as customer requirements. These are all requirements specified by the customer. For example, technical, commercial, product and manufacturing, process-related requirements, general terms and conditions, and etc. Customer-specific requirements. These are interpretations of or supplemental requirements linked to a specific clause of the automotive QMS standard. The new standard more clearly defines these two terms to reduce misunderstanding and to facilitate the sampling of customer-specific quality management system requirements for effective implementation. Here are some examples of areas that were previously customer-specific requirements that are now included in more detail in IATF 16949. Manufacturing feasibility, warranty management, temporary change of process controls, supplier quality management system development, second-party audits, control plans, and problem-solving methodologies. More requirements were added to IATF 16949 for first and second-party auditors, including organizations must have documented processes to verify internal auditor competency. When training internal auditors, documented information must be retained to demonstrate the trainer's competency with the additional requirements. Organizations must show the competency of second-party auditors, and second-party auditors must meet customer-specific requirements for auditor qualification. Auditors must also have these minimum competencies according to the standard. Automotive process approach for auditing, as well as risk-based thinking. Appropriate core tools requirements. Appropriate customer-specific requirements. If applicable, software development assessment methodologies. Competence gap analysis along with additional development and training activities may be necessary for first and second-party auditors. The IATF standard has an entirely new section called Product Safety. This section requires that transitioning organizations have documented processes of product safety management related to product and manufacturing processes. Where applicable, these new requirements related to product safety include FMEAs and control plans special approval, training identified by customers or by the organizations for employees involved in products related to product safety and associated manufacturing processes. Requirement transfer regarding product safety throughout the supply chain, as well as customer-designated resources. The focus of this clause is that every product must execute its design or intended purpose without causing any unacceptable harm or damage. Processes must be in place ensuring product safety throughout the entire product lifecycle in every organization. In the new IATF 16949, the company must evaluate if they are capable of achieving the timing and performance targets stipulated by the clients, which is known as manufacturing feasibility. ISO TS 16949 also required the same analysis of this manufacturing feasibility. Specific requirements were not imposed. The specific requirements in the new standards include use of multidisciplinary approach. Any new product or manufacturing technology, as well as any modified product design and manufacturing processes, must be analyzed. Validation of aptitude to make product specification at expected rate through benchmarking studies, production runs, or other adequate methods. A new requirement has been added to IATF 16949 based on the increasing importance of warranty management consolidating IATF OEM customer-specific requirements. In order to validate No Trouble Found, or NTF, the warranty management process must address and integrate all customer-specific requirements and warranty party analysis procedure. Also, when applicable, decisions should be agreed upon by the customer. Now, let's move on to some key requirements. Clause 1. Scope. Clause 1 details the scope of the standard, and there is a supplementary note to cover products with embedded software. Clause 2. Normative references. ISO 9000 Quality Management System. Fundamental and vocabulary is referenced and provides valuable guidance. Clause 3. Terms and definitions. Terms and definitions are contained in ISO 9000 2015 Quality Management Fundamentals and Vocabulary. The new standard contains additional terms and definitions relevant for the automotive industry, including accessory parts, challenge part, manufacturing services, outsourced processes, production shutdown, special status, and total productive maintenance. Clause 4. Context of the organization. This is a new clause that establishes the context of QMS and how the business strategy supports it. The context of the organization is a clause that underpins the rest of the new standard. It gives an organization the opportunity to identify and understand the factors and parties in their environment that support the quality management system. Firstly, the organization will need to determine external and internal issues that are relevant to its purpose. For instance, what are the relevant issues, both inside and out, that have an impact on what the organization does or that would affect its ability to achieve the intended outcome of its management system? It should be noted that the term issues covers not only problems which could be subject of preventative actions, but also important topics for the management system to address, such as any market assurance and governance goals the organization might set. Secondly, an organization will also need to identify the interested parties that are relevant to their QMS. These groups could include shareholders, employees, customers, suppliers, statutory and regulatory bodies, and even pressure groups. Each organization will identify their own unique set of interested parties, and over time, these may change in line with the strategic direction of the organization. Next, the scope of the QMS must be determined. This could include the whole of the organization or specific identified functions. Any supporting outsourced functions or processes will also need to be considered in the organization scope if they are relevant to the QMS. You are required to establish, implement, maintain, and continuously improve QMS in accordance with the requirements of the standard. This requires the adoption of a process approach, and although every organization will be different, documented information such as process diagrams or written procedures could be used to support this. Product safety is a new section in the standard. It has enhanced requirements designed to address current and emerging issues that the automotive industry is facing. The standard now lists the documented processes for the management of product safety-related products and manufacturing processes that an organization is required to have. This clause places requirements on top management, which is the person or group of people who directs and controls the organization at the highest level. The ISO requirements have been supplemented by requiring organizations to adopt a corporate responsibility requirement. This reflects the increasing market and governmental expectations for improving integrity in social and environmental matters. There is an increased emphasis on people owning the QMS rather than one individual. The new standard requires top management to identify process owners who must be competent and understand their roles in relation to QMS. Top management now have greater involvement and responsibility in the management system and must ensure that requirements of it are integrated into the organization's processes and that policy and objectives are compatible with strategic direction of the organization. The quality policy should be a living document at the heart of the organization. To ensure this, top management are accountable and have a responsibility to ensure that QMS is made available, communicated, maintained, and understood by all parties. There is also a greater focus on top management to enhance customer satisfaction by identifying and addressing risks and opportunities that could affect it. They need to demonstrate consistent customer focus by showing how they meet customer requirements, regulatory and statutory requirements, and how the organization maintains enhanced customer satisfaction. In the same context, they need to have a grasp in the organization's internal strengths and weaknesses and how these could have an impact on delivery and non-conformity of products or services. This will strengthen the concept of business process management. In addition, top management needs to demonstrate an understanding of the key risks associated with each process and the approach taken to manage, reduce, or transfer risks. Finally, the clause places requirements on top management to assign QMS-relevant responsibilities and authorities, but they must remain ultimately accountable for the effectiveness of the QMS. Clause 6. Planning. Planning has always been a familiar element in the automotive standards, but now there is increased focus on ensuring that it is considered with Clause 4.1, context of the organization, and Clause 4.2, interested parties. The first part of this clause concerns risk assessment, while the second part is concerned with risk treatment. When determining actions to identify risk and opportunities, these need to be proportionate to the potential impact they have on the conformity of products and services. Opportunities could include geographical expansion, new partnerships, or new technologies. The organization needs to plan actions to address both risks and opportunities, to integrate and implement the actions into its management system processes, and evaluate the effectiveness of these actions. Actions must be monitored, managed, and communicated across the organization. Another key element of this clause is the need to establish measurable quality objectives. Quality objectives now need to be consistent with the quality policy, relevant to the conformity of products and services, as well as enhancing customer satisfaction. The new standard also contains several supplemental requirements in this clause. These cover risk analysis, recognizing the need to consider specific risks associated with the automotive industry, preventative action to reduce the negative effects of risks, and contingency plans, which is an enhanced requirement of what was found in ISO TS 16949. The importance of addressing customer expectations was already present in the old standard, but this has now been enhanced so it is done at all levels throughout the organization. The last part of this clause considers planning of changes which must be done in a planned and systematic manner. There is a need to identify the potential consequences of changes, determine who is involved, when changes are set to take place, what resources need to be allocated. Clause 7. Support. Clause 7 ensures that the right resources, people, and infrastructure to meet the organizational goals. It requires an organization to determine and provide the necessary resources to establish, implement, maintain, and continuously improve the QMS. Simply expressed, this is a very powerful requirement covering all QMS resources needs and now covers both internal and external resources. There are additional requirements to meet applicable statutory and regulatory requirements. It continues to cover requirements for infrastructure and environment for the operation of processes. Where organizations are required to show their commitment to personal safety, the new IATF standard makes reference to the forthcoming ISO 45001 as a way this can be demonstrated. Monitoring and measuring has been changed to include resources such as personal or training. There are enhanced requirements in the new standard that covers calibration and verification records. This includes software installed on employee-owned or customer-owned equipment. There's also an additional requirement that covers internal and external laboratories that are used for inspection, test, or calibration services. Organizational knowledge is a new requirement which deals with requirements for competence, awareness, and communication of the QMS. Personnel must not only be aware of the quality policy, documented information and changes, but they must also understand how they contribute to product or service conformity and safety and the implications of non-conforming. Personnel must not only be aware of the quality policy, documented information and changes, but they also must understand how they contribute to product or service conformity and safety, as well as the implications of not conforming. This clause also adds further requirements for on-the-job training and awareness, as well as requires that relevant people shall be informed about consequences of nonconformities. Requirements for internal auditors are specified, including minimum competencies and documentation relating to training. Second-party auditors' competencies are also specified. There's a key requirement to maintain the knowledge held by organizations to ensure conformity of products and services. This could include the knowledge held by an individual, as well as, for example, the intellectual property of an organization. Organizations are required to examine whether the current knowledge they have is sufficient when planning changes and whether any additional knowledge is required. This includes internal and external feedbacks. Finally, there are the requirements for documented information. This is a new term which replaces the references in the previous standard of documents and records. Organizations need to determine the level of documented information necessary to control the QMS. This will differ between organizations due to the size and complexity. In line with the increased importance of information security and data protection in the organization, there's also greater emphasis on controlling access to documented, current information such as use of passwords. Organizations should also have systems in place to provide backup should IT systems crash. Clause 8, Operations. This clause deals with the execution of the plans and processes that enables the organization to meet customer requirements and design products and services. It includes much of what was referred to in Clause 7 of the previous version, but there is a greater emphasis on control of processes, especially planned changes and review of the consequences of unintended changes, and mitigating any adverse effects as necessary. It includes significant requirements over and above ISO 9001-2015 and ISO TS 16949 from 2009. The new version of the standard acknowledges the importance confidentiality has in relation to customer contracts of products and projects. It also specifies a requirement for verbal and written communication with the customer to be agreed in terms of language and other formats such as computer language used. The clause continues to cover a number of requirements which have been strengthened in relation to ISO TS 16949 from 2009. These include prototype programs, the product approval process where there is an emphasis on record retention, and outsourced products and services, as well as statutory and regulatory requirements. There are a number of new subclauses which cover the management, measurement, and selection of suppliers. This recognizes the importance of effectively managing in the supply chain, particularly with regard to product quality. Reflecting the increasing application of computer technologies in vehicles, there is a new requirement which covers the process for quality assurance of suppliers of embedded software products. The use of second-party audits is also new to the standard and is to be used in an organization's suppliers management approach. Finally, the new standard now has additional requirements regarding the control of non-conforming or reworked products. This includes being able to verify that products to be scrapped are determined as unusable prior to their disposal, and these products are not used elsewhere without the approval of the customer. Clause 9, Performance Evaluation. Performance evaluation covers many of the features featured in Clause 8 of the previous version. Requirements for monitoring, measurement, analysis, and evaluation are covered, and you will need to consider what needs to be measured, methods employed, when data should be analyzed and reported, and at what intervals. Documented information that provides evidence of this must be retained. There's now an emphasis on directly seeking out information that relates to how customers view the organization. Organizations must actively seek out information on customer perception, and there is a supplemental clause covering customer satisfaction and performance indicators to be used to measure compliance with customer requirements. This can be achieved in several ways, including satisfaction surveys, analysis of market share, and through complaints log. There's now an explicit requirement that organizations must show how the analysis and evaluation of this data is used, especially with regards to the need for improvement in the QMS. Internal audits must also be conducted using a high-based approach. There are additional requirements relating to defining the audit criteria and ensuring that results of the audits are reported to relevant management. IATF 16949-2016 also contains new requirements that cover the qualifications of internal auditors, which will strengthen their development and competence. Management reviews are still required, but there are additional requirements, including the consideration of changes in external and internal issues that are relevant to the QMS. Documented information must be retained as evidence of management reviews. Clause 10, Improvements. This clause starts with a new section that organizations should determine and identify opportunities for the improvement, such as improved processes to enhance customer satisfaction. There is also a need to look for opportunities to improve processes, products, and services in the QMS, especially with future customer requirements in mind. Due to the new way of handling preventative actions, there are no preventative action requirements in this clause. These have now been moved to Clause 6. However, there are some new corrective actions requirements. The first is to react to nonconformities and take action, as applicable, to control and correct nonconformities and deal with the consequences. The second is to determine whether similar nonconformities exist or could potentially occur. Causal factors include human factors, so it could be wide-ranging. The requirement for documented information or procedure for nonconformity and corrective action is retained. This must include flow-down to providers as appropriate. The requirement for continual improvement has been extended to cover the suitability and adequacy of the QMS as well as its effectiveness, but it no longer specifies how an organization achieves this. Improvement activities must be monitored and evaluated. The new standard contains a new requirement that covers customer complaints and field failure test analysis. It requires the organization to perform analysis on field failures and return parts. Where requested, this can extend to how embedded software in the organization's product performs within the system of the final customer's product. So now that you know about some of the changes, let's see how our transition is going to work. IATF 16949 was released in October of 2016 and is aligned with the framework, structure, and requirements of ISO 9001 that was revised in 2015. According to the IATF, there will only be one option for transitions for organizations. The transition must be in line with the organization's ISO/TS 16949 current audit cycle, and organizations transitioning must also do so through a transition audit aligned with the current regularly scheduled recertification audit as defined in the IATF Rules Section 5.1.1. Organizations that are currently certified by ISO TS 16949 should follow a transitioning action plan recommended by the IATF that includes: first, get acquainted with ISO 9001-2015 and ITF 16949. Next, complete a gap analysis between IATF 16949 and ISO 9001-2015 to learn and identify differences and issues that must be addressed to guarantee that your organization meets all of the new requirements. Next, develop an implementation plan specific to your organization based on the findings of your gap analysis. Then, provide all individuals who will be involved in implementing IATF 16949 and ISO 9001-2015 with the appropriate training, materials, and resources. Lastly, update all of the organization's relevant systems and provide evidence that all new requirements are met by the organization. All organizations that are already certified by ISO TS 16949 will need to undergo a transition audit, including a positive veto certification by September 14th of 2018. No initial, surveillance, recertification, or transfer audits will be conducted to ISO TS 16949 after October 1st of 2017, and every transition will occur within the audit cycle at the next planned surveillance or recertification audit. However, the transition audits cannot occur in conjunction with a transfer audit. So let's take a look at our transition timeline. This was the publication of ISO's flagship quality management system standard published on September 23rd of 2015. On April of 2016, there was the IATF Stakeholder Conference to review draft of the 16949 standard. The IATF 16949-2016 was published on October 2016. Moving on to November of 2016. Rules 5th edition publication. Rules for Achieving and Maintaining IATF Recognition 5th edition was published in November of 2016. June of 2017. Auditor registration must be complete. By June 30th, 2017, all active third-party auditors registered in the IATF ADP must pass the IATF 16949 and Rules 5th edition training and quiz modules, or they will be subject to deactivation. Beginning on October 1st, 2017, all audits must be to IATF 16949 using Rules 5th edition, and all organizations seeking initial certification can no longer certify to ISO TS 16949. On September of 2018, IATF 16949 transition must be complete. Transition to IATF 16949 must be complete by September 14th of 2018. All ISO TS 16949 certifications will no longer be valid. Now that you know what changes and how to transition from ISO TS 16949 to IATF 16949, find out more about the most complete and innovative solution in the market today for ISO 9001-2015 and IATF 16949 regulatory compliance and business excellence. SoftExpert offers the most advanced and comprehensive software solution for compliance management that meets the stringent needs of ISO 9001-2015 and IATF 16949 standards. SoftExpert Excellence Suite helps companies adhere to the standards while lowering the cost of complying, maximizing success, increasing productivity, and reducing risks.
Thanks to all of you who took part in this presentation. If you have any questions or would like to get in touch with Gus, please email him at gustavo.oliveira@softexpert.com. For more webinars, please visit our website www.softexpert.com. See you next time.